All right, everybody, welcome back. We are taking another deep dive today,
Hmm.
and this time we are talking about failure,
Oh, yeah,
which is something that, everybody struggles with at some point.
absolutely. Yeah.
And we've got a really good source for this one. This is from the Moments of Clarity podcast,
Okay.
which I don't know if you're familiar with that one,
Yeah, I've heard it.
but the host of that podcast kind of had a really relatable on-stage meltdown experience, and then
Mhm.
talks about kind of how they took that experience and
And
used it to learn
right.
and grow.
I think that's such a common fear for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Public speaking in general is
But
terrifying for so many folks.
And I think we can all relate to
Yeah,
having those moments where we just completely blank.
absolutely.
So the story that the host tells is basically they are about to give this big presentation
Okay.
and they're totally prepared. They practiced it. They're feeling really good,
Yeah.
feeling like a rock
I feel
star.
like you got this.
Yeah. And then they get up there and just complete brain freeze.
Oh, no.
Poof.
Oh,
It's like a disappearing act. But for their whole presentation,
that's brutal.
you can just feel the secondhand embarrassment
Oh,
just
yeah.
thinking about it.
I can only imagine what was going through their head in that moment.
Yeah, what do you even do at that point?
Right.
But the host talks about, feeling like their career was over,
Really?
just done.
Wow.
Like that was it for them.
That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself Yeah. for one presentation.
But then here's where I think the story gets really interesting,
Okay.
is that their mentor reached out to them,
Oh, wow.
but not with just platitudes or,
Right.
just like, oh, it'll be okay.
Don't worry about it.
But instead with stories of their own epic fails.
Oh, wow. So like they were vulnerable and open about their own experiences.
Exactly.
That's great.
It's like instead of saying, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, they're like, hey, I've been there
Right.
and, I survived.
Yeah. I think that speaks volumes because sometimes that's the thing that we need to hear
Yeah.
the most is that it's okay to fail. It happens to everybody and you can still
Exactly.
pick yourself back up and move on.
And it's interesting because, the host even talks about this image of a train
Okay.
in describing this whole experience and how it changed their perspective.
Interesting.
Like the whistle blowing, the wheels turning.
Oh.
It's almost like they were breaking free from being stuck on some kind of rigid track.
So like they were kind of limited or felt constrained before.
Right.
And then this experience kind of freed them from that.
Yeah, like they could go in any direction they wanted.
I wonder if they felt pressured before the presentation, to succeed perfectly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And maybe the train imagery represents a release from that pressure,
Yeah,
like realizing that there are multiple paths to success,
that's a good point.
not just the one they had in mind.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so maybe I didn't, nail that presentation perfectly. But that doesn't mean that, everything's over.
It doesn't invalidate all the other work
Exactly.
that they've done or all their skills and talents.
Yeah, and so I guess connecting this back to the listeners out there,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever had a moment where you're like, wow, I really messed up?
Right.
Like not necessarily a presentation meltdown, but
It's setback for sure.
yeah, just a time where you felt like you failed at something.
We've all been there.
But what's something you learned from that experience?
Because failure can be a really powerful teacher
Oh, yeah,
if we let it.
for sure.
And this idea of resilience is so important here.
What do you mean by resilience?
It's not about never making mistakes.
Right.
It's about how you bounce back,
Mm-hmm.
how you adapt and learn and grow from those experiences.
So it's not about how many times you fall down, but how many times you get back up.
It's that ability to pick yourself up, dust yourself off,
Right.
and keep going that really matters.
So instead of just beating ourselves up over our mistakes,
Yeah.
we can ask ourselves, okay, what can I learn from this?
Right.
How can I approach this differently next time?
And that's what the podcast host did.
Okay.
They went from fearing failure to seeing it as a learning opportunity.
So it's like a shift in mindset
Yeah,
from failure is the enemy to failure is my teacher.
exactly.
I like that.
So it becomes a data point, a feedback mechanism.
So how can we be that mentor figure for other people in our lives?
I love that question.
How can we be the person who helps someone else reframe their failures?
I think it starts with being authentic.
Okay.
Sharing our own struggles,
Mm-hmm.
not trying to sugarcoat things or pretend that we're perfect,
Right.
because no one is.
Yeah.
And when we're open about our own imperfections,
Yeah.
it gives others permission to do the same.
It normalizes it,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it makes them feel less alone.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're not saying like go out there and just, fail at everything,
Right.
but it's more about recognizing that failure is a part of life.
It's inevitable.
And it's actually an essential part of growth,
For sure.
whether we're talking about our careers or our personal lives.
It's a universal truth.
So like maybe instead of seeing those train wrecks as the end of the line,
Mm-hmm.
we can start seeing them as a chance to like switch tracks
Yeah,
and discover a whole new destination.
I love that analogy.
And maybe that new destination is even better than the one we were originally headed for.
That's a great point.
Who knows?
Sometimes those unexpected detours lead us to the most amazing places.
Exactly. So yeah, failure, it's not the enemy.
It's teacher.
It's an opportunity and it's a part of life.
Embrace the stumbles.
And keep on learning and growing.
That's the key.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.
Absolutely. This was a good one.
We'll catch you next time.
See you later.
Bye.